This is Logical Logistics, where we cover shipping, supply chain, logistics, and everything in between. Welcome to the show. All right, welcome to the latest episode of Logical Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Becht, and today joining me is entrepreneur and owner of Indy Express in Indianapolis, Mark Koeoy. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm good, Joe. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm glad you could come on because Indianapolis is such a wonderful city. It's close to Chicago, where I'm located at, and it's just a fascinating.
We're the crossroads of America.
Yeah, it's a fascinating market, and there's a lot of things that Indianapolis has done better, in my opinion, than Chicago has. You just look at certain aspects financially and aesthetically, and I really like the town. So, Mark,
It's a great town.
Tell me, give me a little background on yourself.
Where do I start here? So, I really consider myself being, like you said, I'm an entrepreneur, but I've been in the logistics business, kind of roughly in the logistics business for years now. Started right out of college, so around 1990, and I joined a technology leasing company. I'm not a tech, even to this day. Don't really know much about computers, but joined as a leasing person. So I thought I would be almost like a banker and write leases and be in finance. That was my background. So joined a small computer leasing company. And about the second day on the job, they said, you know what? We have all this equipment coming off lease, and we want you to handle that, maximize its value, provide logistics from getting it out of the buildings and for our off-lease customers. And so at first I was thinking, well, that's the last thing I want to do. But then I really got into it and realized, the whole logistics was really challenging. And I guess that at that time it wasn't called this, but now it's called reverse logistics.
All right.
So, is working with our clients at the time and getting all this equipment out of their buildings without interrupting their customers or their business. So it was really a logistics solution. And then separate from that was selling and remarketing all the off-lease equipment. So really got involved in that, loved doing that, did that for about 10 years. And then for a variety of reasons, the vision of that company became a little foggy for me. We had a young family at the time and decided to join a transportation company out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and with a job to build up the state of Indiana for them in the trailer rental business. So was in still logistics, but it also used some of the terminology of the leasing experience. So I moved down to Indianapolis to do that and really loved getting that going. We got about 400 or 500 trailers being leased out and really enjoyed getting that going.
Now to your timeline, when did you join this company?
So joined this company in about I guess it was 1998 or so. And then did that for about, I guess, 2 years to 2000. And, it was a successful branch here in Indiana. And yet the company itself was a small company, like I said, based out of, owned by a trucking company based out of Grand Rapids. And then to, kind of miss the wheeling and dealing really of that, working with the customers, that reverse logistics. So decided in 2001 to start my own business. And I started a business with really the mission to help companies move and remove their surplus and idle assets. And this could be furniture, this could be computer equipment, which I had experience in, this could be medical equipment, this could be all kinds of different things. So that company was called Asset Forwarding.
All right.
And that had started out of my garage. In fact, our first customer was a bank in Chicago, not too far from where you are. So, and I played, one of those roles that a lot of us have to play where you're dressing in a suit and tie to get the deal and then change in the parking lot to a T-shirt and jeans and try to look sharp as a professional mover and load up the van and then get all the equipment out of there. and then turn back into a salesperson again to sell all the equipment and refurb the equipment. So did that. We had steady growth, went from my garage to 6,000 square feet to 12,000 square foot warehouse, and then to a 40,000 square foot warehouse.
Now, with the idle assets that you're removing, how did that work? Were they the company you'd go in there, contact them? Would they pay you to take their assets, or
Well, we had a little bit different model. So today that industry is the electronic recycling industry.
Yeah.
At that time, even though it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, this is 2001, it really wasn't called the electronic recycling. In that vision with the retired assets, I should point out that because my connections were in the computer business, that it really became an electronic recycling company.
Yeah.
And so we didn't do much with furniture and other types of idle assets, machinery and that kind of stuff. We really kind of ended up focusing on the computer side of things. So a lot of people were taking things for free. We decided to really turn it into a service business.
Yeah.
And so some of these things, because our focus was Fortune 1000 large hospitals and large organizations. So they would have 3 to 4 year refresh programs. So a lot of times this computer equipment was pretty valuable when it was coming out. So even though they would call it recycling, I think when a lot of people think of recycling, they think of end of life. And,
right.
Well, this is just junk. What am I going to do with it? My TV doesn't work. I should recycle it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
This was really a working asset. And so we had to be very careful on the logistics side to remove it. And we, once everybody figured out there was a data capturing device in almost everything that comes out, from a printer to a CPU to a laptop, that kind of changed the industry, changed our company, because we had a lot of different eyes on our service. It wasn't just Billy Bob in the pickup truck taking the stuff away. It was, hey, this is a professional service, even more professional in a way than the furniture removers, because this is our data. When you're talking healthcare, you have HIPAA violations kind of walking out the back door with who knows what on the hard drives.
Yeah.
And people were experimenting with drilling hard drives, and we got involved in forensics of that and saying, well, just drilling it doesn't remove all the information on the platter. So we got into the shredding business, and then we got into, well, it has to be shred to Department of Defense standards. It had to be shred to less than a quarter inch, and we were trying to get it down to an eighth of an inch. So we really ended up being a kind of a high-level service company. And so we were tracking all these assets, where they were going. While this was all going on, a lot of our competition was just shipping it to China. Our corporate customers didn't want to end up on the news, poisoning people in China. So,
yeah.
So that, because every one of these things has an asset tag on. So we really were in that business of getting it ready for the next stage. So we were removing asset tags, tracking every piece of equipment. And then we were just simply, doing a lot of testing. We were doing a lot of parting it out and just trying to maximize the value safely and securely for our customers. So really, this is a long way to answer your question. So we would charge for that service. And then if we would sell it, then we would share some of those proceeds with our customers.
Okay.
So in the end, they were getting maximum value, and we were, still getting paid for the services that we provided.
Right. Okay.
So then, the company was, a small company, right, but still successful, and got a call from somebody in New York, and they said, would you ever sell your company? And I said, well, it's not for sale, but it's not for sale. So,
right.
We ended up meeting and connecting and kind of sharing a vision of the industry, and long story long, ended up selling that company. The call came in the fall of 2007, closed on the company in early 2008. Thankfully, it was early and not in the fall of 2008 when everything collapsed. But
Right.
and that was part of a big ramp up. And so I moved to executive vice president of sales and marketing for the company with a lot of investor money. We ramped up really quickly, added about 8 locations within that first year, including one in London.
Wow.
And really we're a national provider, almost, certainly not overnight, but within that first year.
Yeah.
And really started to get recognized as a national leader, and grew from, my small company of 25, 30 people to, I think 400 people in the first 3 years. And then it was going pretty solid, and I wanted to be more entrepreneurial, and wanted to, consequently, that company now is part of Indoor Micro, so that sold again in 2013,
Okay.
which is great. So it's still now part of a worldwide organization, 69th largest company in the world.
Yeah.
But so then I wanted to be more entrepreneurial. I took some time off and really studied some different industries, studied the food business and really the logistics around fresh, organic, local, farm-to-table type industry. And started doing some consulting for that industry as well as a few others. And then really wanted to get back into the, the logistics business. What can I do to start a company, a logistics company, and just did a lot of research, hired a broker, and ended up last November buying Indy Express.
Okay.
Which really started as a courier company,
Yeah.
but now is an express delivery company.
All right.
Both. We do have courier drivers as well as truck drivers, van drivers, and that kind of thing. And really just, it's been around since 1980. Solid employees, solid customer base, small company, but yet growing. So I'm super excited about it. I've been at it now for 6 months, so feel like my feet are wet a little bit, and we're really trying to grow the business.
Well, so this is a great topic we'll touch on. This is an older company, and you are a young guy who has came from different recycling to logistics of food, a lot of great background, and decided to buy this old company and rejuvenate it. So the process of finding it through the broker, how did that work?
Well, that went well. And if you've ever done that, it's just an emotional roller coaster, because if you're like me, you get excited about a lot of different things, and you see. I like to think of myself as a pretty positive person, so you see a lot of potential in a lot of different small companies. I was looking for a smaller company. So because of that, you have a lot of family-run companies. You have companies that have been in their second generation and looking to get out. You have what I would call, and I really was looking for these industries, service industries, logistics industries that are not the sexiest industries. I wasn't looking for the latest and greatest software company. I was looking for a service company. And when you're looking for a small service companies, you see a bunch of potential. You see a lot of times where companies and families have been running them the same way for 30 years, haven't really spent money on technology. They haven't really explored other avenues for their business. And that's kind of, that inspires me. That kind of, I love looking at that. But because you love looking at that, you do get on this roller coaster. And so anytime the broker would bring, hey, I got this business. I mean, we looked at pallet companies and trucking companies and inventory companies. And, you start looking at them, you spend a lot of time and energy looking at these companies and going, oh, well, if we took control of this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And then towards the end of the due diligence, all of a sudden you find out, something that you weren't expecting, or they, can't justify their price, or, there's just something that comes up and the deal falls flat. And so then you start the whole process over again.
Yeah.
So when I got the call, and really how the call came in was, hey, I've got a courier business. It's smaller than you were thinking of, but been around for a long time, and it's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, I thought, for whatever reason, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because again, I think to have that platform and that foundation of a logistics company, whether it's a trucking company, whether it's warehousing or something like that, you can build a lot of things from that. And I think a lot of us, you included, in this logistics business, really every day could be something great. Every day you could get one of those calls from one of your customers or a new customer, putting you in a slightly different path than maybe what you were thinking. You still got to be focused, but it's a pretty broad industry. So,
sure.
I'm excited about the future. I think we, like I said, have a good base, but there's a challenge too. We got to get it going. So.
Yeah. So, what's your area of coverage? So, Indianapolis is.
We consider Indiana in the touching states of Indiana.
Okay.
Now, that being said, we do a lot of trips up to Chicago and in the big cities. But with the nice thing, and you hinted at it about Indianapolis, is we're 2 hours from Louisville. We're hour and a half from Cincinnati. We're 3 or 4 hours from St. Louis. We're 3 or 4 hours from Chicago. We're 5 hours from Cleveland. So we're in a good location for this type of business.
Right.
And I would say, to be honest, just continuing to look for niches and that kind of thing. And right now, our niche, if you will, is too broad, and that's great service and fast delivery. Well,
mm-hmm.
You could talk to a ton of people, and they would say the same thing. But I think if we can find a niche, that would help things.
Yeah. So, what are your challenges right now? Transitioning.
I think that is the challenge. I
Okay.
think that challenge is, talking to other people in the industry, and even when I say industry, I'm not even sure what I mean by that industry, because I think, this business started as a courier business.
Yeah.
And that courier business has changed, with Uber and, independent contractors running all over the place. Anybody with a car can be in that business. That's a tough business. So there's a lot of those type of companies that are now looking at expedited services with trucks, but a lot of them don't want to get into that. So, I think the challenge is exactly that is, what is our niche? What is our elevator speech?
Right.
It's a little too broad to say, hey, if you need, whatever you need, we'll get it there fast.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
Right.
But when you talk to industry leaders, typically they have a niche, whether it's furniture or computers or, something that is kind of their niche. And like with any small companies, a lot of your revenue comes from, 5 or 6 customers.
Yeah.
And often those 5 or 6 customers develop you into some sort of niche. So I think the challenge is, for me right now, is to update the technology, update the vehicles, and just, get a good base, and then we can really work on that niche. So,
right.
Kind of a 2-step approach.
You really jumped ahead. I wanted to talk to you more about the business, but you really jumped ahead as far as how I usually wind up the show, because the term logistics is so all-encompassing. And if all my listeners out there, this is our 14th episode, and I say it every episode, but it's so true. And you just stated that. You probably stated it just as well as anyone else, or better than most of my guests. So, with that being said, how would you define logistics?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, because, like you said, that term it reminds me of when people would say recycling. Well, what is recycling? What does that mean? There's so many parts of that process.
Right.
And I think logistics is the same way. I mean, I would typically define logistics as managing the flow of things, to and from a certain point. And I say to and from because I consider logistics, based on my background, forward and reverse logistics, not just from the factory to the customer, but the returns and that kind of thing. So I think managing that is logistics. Managing that flow of things is logistics. And, there are just so many things. It's almost too broad a word.
Right.
And I guess that's your point is, it means different things, but what, you can be in the logistics, like even my background, people would say, well, you were in the recycling business. And I would say, no, I was in the logistics business.
Right.
Because we had to manage that flow, that reverse flow of products.
Yeah.
So I think, that's somewhat of the challenge of the industry, but that's what makes it exciting too, is because there's always going to be a need. We can all get depressed if we have a bad day or sales aren't up or something like that. But man, you just got to tell yourself, it's all about logistics. This whole country stops if we take logistics off the table.
Right. Exactly. Once again, my guest today is Mark Vander Kooi. He is the owner and president of Indy Express. So, Mark, now that you're with Indy Express, any good stories about deliveries? Anything that really, really exciting that you had to get done and move forward with the company?
I think not too many that I want to share.
Okay. No, I understand. Yeah.
No, but I think if your listeners can imagine, taking an old company that's been a solid performer but been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
You put it this way: the first thing I did was order 2 dumpsters.
Okay.
And that was just to get rid of some things that had just been built up here. So that's probably was the biggest,
right.
challenge.
Now,
right away.
But now back to the service aspects. What kind of services are you offering your customers?
So right now we offer, express delivery, and,
okay.
and there's a few points to that. That's same day delivery. We have same hour delivery here in the Indianapolis area.
All right.
Same day delivery to all the points I mentioned throughout the surrounding states.
Yeah.
And that's box truck, van truck, and vehicle deliveries.
Okay.
Our niche is we have our own employees and our own cars. And so we like to think the image is a little bit better. Got new uniforms for everybody. And so our tagline is when it matters. So we want people to use us when it's critical, and they know it's going to get there. That's the challenges. You got to prove that you're only as good as your last delivery, as you know, as your customer, as your guests know. You're only as good as your last delivery. So we have a great reputation, but we got to prove that, every single day for us to grow.
All right. And your tagline again is when it matters. That's great.
Yep. Indy Express, when it matters.
Yeah, Indy Express, when it matters.
Thanks for watching our
video.
video.
Mark, I'd like to
click
thank
the subscribe
you
button for new videos every week
Mark
and
Vander
download us
Kooi
and review
Indy
us on
Express.
iTunes.
Mark,
visit
what is the best way for people
www.beslogistics.net
to
for
get
more
a hold of you
logistics,
and your
transportation, and warehousing resources.
The best
Thanks
way
for
really
watching.
is, call our number.
Okay.
It's a little bit old-fashioned, but that's still the best way. We answer it all the time. Live voice, 317-635-4910.
Okay.
317-635-4910. You can find us on online at Indy-Express, Indy, I-N-D-Y -Express, EXPRESS.com.
Okay, great. Once again, that's Mark Vander Kooi. You can reach him at 317-635-4910, correct?
Yep, that is correct.
And it's Indy-Express.com.
Correct.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us. It's great to talk to you and great to talk to someone in such a thriving area. So good luck to you, and hope to talk to you soon again.
Yeah, I look forward to it, Joe. Thanks a lot for having me on.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you want to drop us a line, email us at becht5@comcast.net. You can leave comments, or if you want to be a guest, becht5@comcast.net. Also, make sure to review us on iTunes or other media outlets that we're located on, and we'll see you next time. on logical logistics.
Click the subscribe button for new videos every week and download us and review us on iTunes. Visit www.beslogistics.net for more logistics, transportation, and warehousing resources. Thanks for watching.
Okay.